What is good, YouTube? Yu-Gi-Oh Vendor here, coming to y'all with my updated version 3 of Floowandereeze. Now, what I will say is this deck has changed, obviously, because the sneak peek, we got a new card that we all been waiting for, but also the format has changed. No more Imperial Order, as it will be banned for this format, so that helps a lot, because this deck does rely a lot on spell cards, including a new card as a spell card. And on top of that, a lot of decks have changed. Lyralist Tri-Brigade got hit on the ban list. Sorso got touched. We got decks like PK, Adventurer, also Prank Kids got it. Virtual World got it. You got Battle of Choas introducing DDD so they can be more competitive. So you look at the fact that the format is completely different. You got some decks that's still great, some decks that evolved, some decks that added a new engine, and you got some decks that got a little bit more support and a little bit more help through, obviously, Grand Creators, Battle of Choas, and obviously Pendulums got more support through the ban list and other decks too. And even Eldritch got more help with skill drain, and we still got more sets to go before this format is over. So, as you know, I will be having my version 4 out as I play around with it more, as a format evolves and solidify what it's going to be, and more packs continue to release. This deck will obviously change depending on how the format changes, what decks become relevant, and how to, change the deck to be able to combat those decks. So this is version 3, only because we got Avid Adventure, so the deck changed because of that. So I won't tell you my theory why I play certain cards and my extra deck and my side deck. So for the most part, I still play the 3 Rabina. That hasn't changed. You still want to be able to search for your barrier or your eagling or whatever you need, depending on your hand. But this is your primary searcher to get your normal summon and to get the card to allow you to establish your board. Same with eagling. Sometimes you open it already, so you just search the barrier statue or something, depending on the matchup, and this allow you to search depending on your situation. If you need to negate, you go with Apex. If you need to set up, you go Imping. And if you need to break boards, you go Mega Monarch. So that hasn't changed, and this also do depend on what your hand is too. I still play one token. This is good because it allows you to get your Imping back, your trap back, your continuous spell, and also your field spell back if they're banished. And then you can just add them back to your hand, and then you get the normal summon if it resolves. And I still play one Styrie. That hasn't changed because you do need it. Getting hidden raise, hidden DPE is very crucial to helping you control the board and control the game and change the tide of it. And the fact that, you can just keep using it makes it pretty good to be able to DD Crow whenever you need it. Makes this card powerful, especially because it's searchable and is resummonable every turn. Imping, I still play one because, like I said, you can always token and take it from banish back to the deck. So it's never a situation where you're desperate enough to need two. Two ain't terrible because you can always, you don't have to rush to get your Imping back. You can just summon it again. It still do have the effect to negate special summon monsters. You can discard the half a monster attack that battles it, and it can search a Floowandereeze spell or a trap card from deck to hand, and that's still powerful to set up your board. And depending on your hand, you can get whatever you need for the situation in the deck you're going against. Rise Up, this is still broken because you can basically return up to 2 cards, and if you tribute a win, you can return 2 cards on either player's field, and you also can return 1 from graveyard, 2 from your graveyard or there. So this card is powerful recoverability and is also powerful for breaking boards. And like I said, Apex is powerful because it gives you the negate. Being able to summon 2700 negate that can stop monster spells or traps. It can stop the lightning storm or the evenlies, and that's crucial to keeping your board together, but also preventing you from losing because of 1 card. Barrier statue, I still play it because it's still a game. If your opponent has a bad hand or you got a good field and they can't summon nothing powerful, because it stops you from summoning cards that are special summoning cards that's not Winged Beast, you kind of just win. You just kind of win a lot of times, especially if you already got like a apex or back row, and then they can't summon nothing strong enough to break a board or start a combo because they can't summon nothing that's not wind. It just wins dual still. So this still isn't game because a lot of people play impermanent, chalice, and droplet, but it still can win you games if your opponent don't have the right hand you know, with them. And then I still play the shifter. This hasn't changed because it's still powerful. Being able to cut off the grave during either player turn whenever you feel like it, as long as your graveyard is empty, it's still powerful. Remember, you can Steery and banish a card from your graveyard to make it back empty, and then you can use shifter on their turn or your turn still, which still allow you to cut off certain card effects, certain hand traps, and also a lot of cards that send to grave or need to get to grave, or, you know, can be trouble. So cutting off the grave is powerful. I still do play the 3 maps. This card is still game a lot of the times. If they don't out the map, sometimes it just automatically win you game 1 because you just build the imping board, and if they can't summon nothing stronger to imping or get over the imping, and then you just go apex or mega monarch, it's just game. So the map is still powerful. The map is still game. And then we got the new card, Advent, that just came out Saturday. And for sneak peek people, this card is what we needed. One of the problems with the deck is sometimes you don't have a chance to even play if you don't have, you know, the card to search, or if you get impermed or something, or chalice, it just hurts. But now the fact that you can still search the card that you need if you don't have it, and still dodge a card that can stop you from being able to get this effect off, just make this deck a lot more competitive. Because if you played this deck last format, it was good, it was great, one of the best decks. But this card is making it more consistent, being able to dodge cards that usually will end your turn, but you can also search another card to keep playing and get your normal summons to continue, because the effects still go through, allowing you to search while also being able to summon since it didn't get negated. And that can allow you to continue to build your board, or, you know, not just end your turn because you got imperm twice or chalice, because you can still summon with the field spell and trap, and get an extra normal summon. But this card just allow you to keep searching to get the card you need, and it can allow you to keep playing when you usually couldn't. And that's something that this deck really struggled on, and that's why a lot of people didn't like the fact that the pack got delayed a little bit before it officially came out in February, because this deck did need a way to dodge imperm, it did need a way to dodge chalice, and it really did, you know, especially because if you don't see Rabina or Eaglin, it's just hard to get the cards you need that can win you the duel. And now not only can you dodge the dangerous card, you can also still search the card that you need to get the card you need to win the duel, which is something that you really couldn't do consistently. But now that this card is out, you can officially do it now. So I think this is the card we all been waiting for, we all been wanting, and now it's finally out. So it did help the deck. And you gotta look at the fact that this deck didn't get worse. Like Sword Soul and the other decks got worse. This deck stayed the same, plus it got a card that made it more consistent and make it more explosive while not losing to nothing. And like I said, on top of that, they lost Imperial Order, which is a powerful card against this deck, because as you can see, majority of this deck is spell, and that card is no longer able to be played, which makes this deck better, because that's a card that really helped beat this deck easier. But no deck can play it ever again until it gets unbanned, which is banned now. So that makes the deck stronger too than it was last format, because there's no Imperial. And then the Unexplored Wind is still good. This card allows you to out problematic cards, because you can just send it to, you can send a problematic card to the graveyard, whether it's a negate monster, whether it's a floodgate, you can just send it to the grave and still tribute summon your monster while still outing it. Plus it allows you to fix your hands by banishing, by sending the cards back, and then you get to draw 2 cards equal to the number of winged beasts that you put back in your deck. So this card fixes your hand, it allows you to continue to play, and it allows you to out problematic monsters and spells and traps, and even field spells too, because it just says any card. I still do play the Prosperities, because obviously it's the best draw card in the game, and you don't really use your extra deck that much. So the fact that you can just draw any card that can get you to your preparation, to your Advent Adventure, your field spell, or your Rabina, or your Eaglin, or just your traps, or even your Book of Moons, this card just becomes anything. So this card turns into another card that can help you, and that's what made Pot of Prosperity amazing. And another thing about Advent, it can search the field spell too. So it's just another way to get to your field spell. If you already got the monster, you can get your field spell easier, because that quick play spell card does that too. Same with duality. This card turns into another card. So instead of you digging for 6, you just dig for 3. And then you can just turn this card that you activate into a card that you may need. I still disagree with people. I still play the 3 books because certain decks is just game, being able to stop them from a seed summoning, synchro summoning, or when they normal summon, putting it in defense and then they can't do nothing else. Or stopping them from making a power play because you can just book it, or stop them from even being able to do it because it just goes face down so they can't even link summon. This card is still one of the best defensive cards too because it can stop an attack. If they attack you, you can just put the card face down. If your hand is bad or you want to keep your barrier statue on the field, you can just book a moon, the monster, and then they go face down so your barrier statue can't be attacked, and is at 3, so you can use it multiple times in the turn because it's not once per turn. So a lot of people say, you know, now that we got the spell card, cut Book of Moon. I say no, Book of Moon is still one of the best versatile cards. Not only can it stop link summoning, synchro summoning, and seed summon, it can stop attacks. So, and it's not once per turn like I said. So I still play 3 books. And I still do play the D-Fissure because this card, if you don't see your shifter or your shifter is turned off because you got cards in your graveyard, this card still allow you to keep your opponent from sending cards to the graveyard. And it still hurts a lot of decks like PK and other decks that need the graveyard to be able to combo. And this deck doesn't deal well, and this is a reason why I still play Book of Moon. It doesn't deal well with removal, so I still do play the 3 evenlies because sometimes you go second and your opponent got a good board and you just evenly it, and sometimes people forget that it's not once per turn. So if they negate your evenly, you can activate another one and still clear their whole board and then continue to play. So this still, you know, clears the adventurer boards and stuff like that pretty easy because they don't really have any spell trap negation. And even if they do, you know, I'll show you what I play in my side deck for that matchup. And this deck do have a good matchup because you can stop them from using their grave, which is a PK engine, and it can stop them from using Rusty and Cherry Beanie because they can't send to the grave because they'd be banished instead because of Shifter, Fissure, and also Macrocosmo, which I do play. And then I do play triple Imperm. This still is probably the best hand trap in the game. Just being able to negate on your turn or their turn monster effects. So I still play the Imperm. I still do play the Trap because this card is good because if you banish it, you can put all cards face down, which can end your opponent's turn a lot of the times, and it allow you to summon on their turn, which allow you to go to your Apex or your Ryza, or just go into Styria or something and, you know, interrupt their plays or break their board, or, you know, pretty much seal the game when it's your turn. So I still play it, and I still do play the 1 macro because, like I said, being able to cut off the grave and hand traps that hurt this deck, you know, this card would just say no. Plus, you don't really care what you banish because you can always get it back with Taken, and you can also always get it back because when they're banished, they can get back to your hand if you're number summon. So you don't really fear losing none of your Floowandereeze, which the deck is. For a side deck, play double Lancia, good against Virtual World, good against Sorso, good against the mirror match. Pretty much everything, even Adventure, PK, Prank Kids, Adventurer, everything. So every deck is pretty much good against. So I still play double Lancia. I play Dark Ruler for the Sorso and Adventurer matchup, so you can negate their boards and break it. And remember, Scythe don't hurt this deck because you don't really special summon. So you don't really care if they go to Scythe because you ain't going to special summon really ever. So Scythe don't hurt this deck if they use it, but you still want to negate their board so you can break it with Ryza. So remember that. Lightning Storm, if you go Dark Ruler, you can just Lightning Storm their board and just clear it or they back row. But I don't play it because you got to control. You can't control no monsters in a lot of this deck. You know, you have cards on the field, so only play 2. And I just play the Duster. This is just a generic way to just wipe out your opponent back row with no cost. I play the Solemns because this is important. If you do get Lightning Storm or Even Lead, you can just easily just Solemn Judgment and just negate it. Without just, if they do it twice, like I said, you can Lightning Storm and you can evenly. So your Apex can only negate 1. So Solemn Judgment will negate the other. And it's just a back row card that seals games. Sometimes you got to stop a summon. Sometimes you just stop they play and they just lose. And it does protect your monsters and your back row. So it helps against Duster, Lightning Storm, evenly match. And you know, even cards is even better. And then I play the Barrier. I think this card is important because it just ends turns. Like, if they can't synchro a seed infusion, like which most decks do now, They just have to stop their turn. And that's why I play that at 3. And I play the rare reboot for Eldritch and stuff. If you stop their traps for the whole turn, it'll allow you to finish them off next turn. So reboot is at 1, but it still stops all trap decks. And it do stop cards kind of like Skill Drain, and stop cards like Solemn and other cards that's powerful like Ice Dragon. For the extra deck, I play Access Code still to break boards. Like I say, you usually don't summon it, but it does come up depending on your hand. I do play the Omen for the Maximus, send it to search a Winged Beast. I play Nightmare Unicorn, just in case I gotta shove a card back that can't be destroyed. Phoenix for the floodgates and the field spells and the traps. And mine, Cerberus, just because sometimes you can't out a monster that special summon, so you just go into Cerberus if you need to, and then you just pop it by discarding the card. Anima I still play just in case you use normal summon a monster, don't use his effect. Then you go into Anima, take one of their cards, and then you gain advantage of the duel. Almirage, because sometimes they Lightning Storm your Imping, and then you just go Almirage protected, and it ain't destroyed that turn. Zeus, because if you can go into Zeus, you play it. Nova, because of Mecha Buff. Fuko, because it is a winged beast, and sometimes you got 2 winged beasts, you go into it and you can't be destroyed that turn, so it make you survive a turn and you can't go into Zeus with it. Nightingale for Zeus too. Same with Starling. If you use 2 of your winged beasts, you can go into Starling, search an Eaglin, search a Rabina or whatever. Sometimes it happens if your hand is bad. And then I do play the Mecha, but like I said, for the Maximus, you send it. You send Nova, and then you summon Mechaba. Then the Ints for the Maximus too. So if they Maximus you, you send Ints. And I also do play the Inister for that too. So if they Maximus you, you can send Inister to shuffle during any time you want to. You can shuffle, you can banish this card from the graveyard and shuffle 1 monster, you know, from the field back to the deck. So I don't play 2 Ints because Ints only destroy a card when it's sent. And sometimes some cards can't be destroyed. So if you play 2 Ints, you only can destroy cards. Some cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, as you know, can't be destroyed by card effects. So you send Inister Pegasus, win Pegasus at Inister, because this card, you can banish it to shuffle the card that can't be destroyed by battle, and Ints can destroy the card that can be destroyed by card effect. So this do come up where sometimes a card can't be destroyed by card effect and Ints does nothing. So you just send the Pegasus to shuffle it instead of destroying it. So that's why I don't play 2 Ints and I play the Inister, because situations like that do come up when you can't destroy with the Int. So you just send the Pegasus to shuffle it. So that's pretty much it. I still like it, still fun, still the best deck to me. Don't have the greatest matchups, but it still beat, you know, majority of the good decks out here. Still beat most of the best decks because it does shut off the grave. It does have a stun element to it with the Imping, and the fact that it got the Apex and the Mega Monarch and good back row, and the fact that, you know, it literally can grind real well and it can really stay in duels. You know, the problem is sometimes it's hard breaking boards, but that's why you put cards in like evenly and other stuff like that to even those boards out and even out the odds. And like I say, even with Dark Ruler, you negate the board evenly it, or Lightning Storm it, you know, it just allows you to destroy, you know, back row or massive monster field. So I'm still working on it, still trying to get it to where it needs to be, but this is version 3. A lot of people want to know what I was playing. A lot of people want to know what I was doing, and I'm still working on it, still doing my thing, and I'll be playing this deck for basically the whole format. So I'm going to still be putting in work to see how I can make it better, how I can improve. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Yu-Gi-Oh Vendor signing out, and keep dueling.